today's paper, that is 6th of May. All right. We will be discussing important news and we'll be solving a few questions as well, as is our trend. So are you all ready? Let's start with our first news. Yes? Okay. All right, let's begin with our first news. And the first one that we have is 30 banks have been integrated with Udgam portal that are going to help to get the legal trade fairs, right? So the thing to know here is, first of all, what is Udgam portal, right? We'll talk about what Udgam portal is, and then we'll understand what its utility is and why are banks getting associated with it, okay? So while talking about Udgam portal, let's say that we talk about Udgam that is unclaimed. What is Udgam? Unclaimed deposits, gateway to access information. Gateway to access information, okay? Unclaimed deposits. What does that mean? We say that we have certain unclaimed deposits, like somebody who has passed away like a long time ago had a bank account and had some money in it, or had some property papers in it. There are some properties enlisted on their names. There are some stocks enlisted on their name. They've bought some shares, etc. Right? So such documents, maybe they hadn't revealed to the family yet, and they hadn't disclosed them to the family yet, and they passed away before that. Now, to claim such things, to claim such older deposits, we have come up with Udgam portal, okay? So the government has come up with Udgam portal that the RBI is managing, the Udgam portal that is for unclaimed deposits, mainly for unclaimed deposits. What they're trying to do is that if you have an unclaimed deposit, you will come here, you will enlist the names, you will give a phone number, you'll give your basic details, you'll give the name of the person under whose name you are trying to look for an unregistered, unclaimed reserve or unclaimed deposit, and that way you'll be able to access, the unclaimed funds. Now, to get these access funds would obviously have been, put with banks. That's why we are integrating as many banks here as possible, so that user has a centralized system, a centralized information system where they can come and check with all the banks, okay? At one place, they would be able to check with all the banks, whether they have any deposits there, whether they have any securities there, right? And you don't have to go individually to every bank and check that, right? Just imagine without this, how would you be doing that process? You just have a person and you know that they had some money, they must have put them in some bank, but we don't know which bank, we don't know which account. So if the family wants to access that fund, what would they have to do? They would have to go to each bank. Now imagine the family of a deceased person, right? The person has already gone, they're already reeling with such a high loss, and they're already in pain, and in that they have to go to every other bank to actually get access to that. How difficult would that be for them? Both such a mental pressure and the pressure of going to every bank and all that, and the added emotional pressure because of the whole situation, right? So amidst that, RBI has come up with a solution that is Udgam portal that is already running. It is nothing new. It is already running. We're just associating more banks into that. Why are we doing that? Because we want such a centralized system that at least the information can be given from one place. Right? Now, let me tell you one thing, just remember one thing, that this centralized system is for providing information. They're not going to give you the claim, okay? They're not here to give the claim. They're only here to provide the information. The claimant will have to go to the bank. Yes, you'll have to go to the bank and make sure that you get your access from the bank. You get your papers from the bank. You get your deposit from the bank, right? It is not that this Udgam portal is going to help you get your claim and it will help you get your money or deposits or documents, nothing. It will just give you an information whether under this name or under this Aadhaar card or under this PAN card or under this particular information, do we have any accounts? Do we have any documents? Do we have any sort of relatability here? And in whichever bank you find that, you can go to that bank. You will be given a UDRN number. Okay, you'll be given an UDRN number. Using that number, you will go to the bank. You will ask the bank, okay, this is the number I have been issued by Udgam portal, right? So the bank will check that number. And based on that number and the whole record, they will come up with that, okay, this is your deposit, this is your unclaimed deposit, and these are the details, right? So this has made the process very easy. Now people had large scale undeclared funds or unclaimed deposits lying around of many people. Now what they've done is that let's make it easy. Yes, let's make it easy, and this is how it is done. Why? Because all these funds, all these undeclared funds, all these unclaimed funds are just held into depositors' education and awareness fund. Where do they go? Into depositors' education and awareness fund. This is a fund maintained by RBI, and all the money, all the resources are here. From here, the claimant will be able to get that. Is that clear? That is how we are using Udgam portal to give people back what they are owed and have not claimed it ever since. Is that clear? Is that clear? Yeah. Please remember, this is only a search and tracking tool. This is only a search and tracking tool. This is not a place to make claims. No claims can be made here. Please remember that in prelims question, another statement, the third statement would be that you can also make the claims here and get verified for that. No, you cannot make a claim here. You can only search the information, right? Please keep that in mind. Please keep the difference in mind. You can only make a search and track your records, but you cannot make any claim here. For claim, you would still have to approach to the bank. You'll have to go to the bank with the registered number and you will have to ask them to make the claim. Clear? Yeah. This is our Udgam portal. Now we have associated 30 banks at least here, right? Yes. 30 banks have been done. Clear? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hi everyone. How are you all doing? Clear? Yeah. Now to return these, there are certain challenges, right? If you want to return these, this fund, or you want to return this money, there are certain challenges that have come forward. Okay. So they're saying that if there is any petitioner who has come and, they're saying that we have unclaimed funds here and we want those funds, right? There are funds in post offices, insurance schemes, provident funds. All these are yet not included here. Okay. Within these, only banks' funds are included. What about the rest of the funds? They have insurance claims, they have post office claims, right? Yeah. So the challenge is that these funds, provident funds are there. None of these have been included in the Udgam portal information. Only bank funds, only the funds that are stored with the banks have been included. Right. So there was this petitioner Prashant Bhushan who came up with the fact that, okay, if you're not including these, then the portal is not a wholesome portal. You have to include these as well, right? So Supreme Court has given some time. Supreme Court has also given some time to the center and SEBI, asking them to come up with a solution, because they might have stocks also. They might have securities also. So SEBI also has to get involved. RBI also has to get involved. Other provident funds, etc. For all these things, central government also has to get involved. So they've asked everybody to come up with the solution as to how we can include all these options in the Udgam portal. Okay. So the challenge that lies here is up till now, please remember that by the time you give the exam, maybe this will change. But up till now, these are not included. The post office shares are not included, insurance claims are not included, stock markets are not included. So SEBI has also been requested that you also come up with a plan as to how we can include all these things into Udgam portal and make sure that people are able to claim this as well. Clear? Yeah. So they have to provide documentation, like how are you facilitating these returns? How are you making sure that these returns are also given back to the people? Clear? Yeah. Okay, what is the meaning of Udgam portal? See, that is what we are discussing, Udgam portal. see the beginning of the class and you'll be able to understand. We've already discussed that. Okay. Nothing, it is just a portal where unclaimed funds can be claimed by the claimant. Like somebody has died and you need to claim their funds. They must have a bank account where they must have some money, have some lockers where they would have some gold, etc. Right? So to claim that, you need to search in this Udgam portal and find out the information on which bank they have such structures, and then you'll be able to access that. Yes? Okay, all the best for your journey. All the best for your journey. All right, let's move ahead. Is this clear? Yes, is this clear? Did you understand that? Udgam portal. Yes. Shall we move on to the next news then? All right, all right, all right, all right. The next news that we have is a comparison being drawn that if you're silencing academia, yes, if you're silencing academia, you're not just silencing an intellectual, you're silencing democracy, right? This is what the article is about. What are they saying? That if you are silencing, I'll repeat that, please pay attention. If you're silencing academia, you are not just silencing intellectuals, you are actually silencing democracy. How so? They say that according to recent reports, many reports have come forward, okay? Many reports have come forward. What kind of reports have come forward? Yeah, what kind of reports have come forward? That you'll see that VDEM Institute has come up there, said that in India there is electoral autocracy. In India there is electoral autocracy. If we talk about India's freedom, they said that India's position in terms of academia freedom or academic freedom is actually electoral autocracy. Why? Because we rank lower than half of the globe. We rank lower than half of the globe. We have worst autocratizers. Yes? Yeah. And there is another index, that is academic freedom index. Okay. In academic freedom index, we've come up with 0.161 index. Okay. This is even worse than 0.172 that we had in 2023. That means our academic freedom is declining by the day. How can we say that? They're saying that through all these datas, right? There are multiple datas here. You can access that from the PDF. The main point here is that, like say, via academic data, we have 62 academics who have faced punitive, actions. Why so? Why is this happening? Because they're saying that in India, when academics or academia word comes forward, comes with criticism, comes with new ideas for the structure of the government or new ideas for how the government should work and run and what the needs of the people are, they are always silenced. They're always silenced or suppressed or put away in jail as well. Right? Why? Because they're saying that Indian academic environment is not being allowed to flourish with new ideas. They're just being expected to accept the norm that has been going on since years. Right? So they're saying that you should do whatever has been going on for a long time. You accept that. You just move forward with that and you try to improve it. Okay, that is fine. But you don't come up with new ideas. You don't come up with new structures. You don't come up with new fundas. Why? Because that will again prove that the current government or any of the political entities are not sufficient, are not doing their work well enough. For example, recently we had this huge matter that went on for many, many days. We've discussed that multiple times. You remember the NCERT issue with Supreme Court? Yes. Isn't that the suppression of academia? Right. So such things are happening by the day, every day. Like nobody can criticize the government. Anywhere you see criticism of the government, they're asking them to pull it down, right? You see the Twitter incident where government has said that anything criticizing the government should be pulled down. All these things are moving towards an autocratization, and in that autocratization, our academia, our intellectual world is not allowed to experiment. They're not allowed to come into an environment where they can actually find new methods, where they can actually come up with new theories. And if you're not allowing that, our political development is anyway dormant. How will we have development when we do not even have the right to experiment? When we do not even have the right to actually think about the theories, talk about the theories, discuss the theories, come up with new ideas, if we are not allowed that, how are we to improve our situation? So the article is clearly stating that when you are suppressing academia, you are also suppressing democracy. Because democracy is not just about right to vote. Okay, I've done my vote and I'm democratic now. I'm a part of the democracy now. No. Do you think democracy is limited to the fact that you are allowed to vote? Do you think that is democracy? Huh? Is that democracy? Yeah? Or are there any more aspects to that? Do we want more in democracy? Yes, we want more. We want the right to express ourselves. We want to have the right to speech and expression. We want to exercise that right. You have given us the right, that's fine. Fundamental rights give us the right to speech and expression. But you are limiting that to a large extent. And if you are limiting that, how are we to come up with any idea? How are we to come up with any provisions of our own? And even if we are researching on something, let's say we found out that, okay, if the government works this way, it would be better. Who will come up and say that? Because that would mean the current government is not working better. That means you're criticizing the government, and government will not take that. Right? So all these reports, what do they suggest? That in India, autocratization has gone to far extended level, right? Where people have become, scared of speaking up. They're very scared that if we come up with ideas, if we come up with provisions, we are going to be suppressed, or far worse, we are going to be put into jail. Right? Yeah. So the communalistic ideologies that have come forward recently are saying that you are not just saying that you will be able to put forward an idea, or you will be able to take forward the word and you will be able to lead the word. No, they're only saying that you follow whatever is given to you and you walk that way. How is this going to empower our youth for future generation, or our future generations, for the future politics of India, for the future scenarios of India that have to work neck to neck with the entire world? We are not preparing our intelligentsia for that. We're not preparing our intellectuals for that. We're not preparing our future generation for that. So how are we to sustain that? How are we to sustain our democracy? Right? So that raises a very serious question. Do you understand that? Yes? Exactly. So what they're saying is, if you want more democracy, if you want actual democracy, if you want democracy to sustain in India, you have to allow the intellectuals the freedom to question you, yes, to criticize you. That is how you improve. That is how you improve. If you don't accept criticism, do you think anybody who is not open to good constructive criticism would ever be able to improve themselves? No, right? Everybody has to be open to that. And if you are open to that, you would come up with wonders. You would do so much better, right? But if you don't allow that to happen, what kind of freedom of speech expression is this? Can we really say then that we have freedom of speech? Can we really say that? No, we cannot, right? So this has become a controversy, that if you're talking about freedom of speech, where is it? Where is it? In substantiality, when we are trying to actually access that freedom of speech, when we are trying to exercise that freedom of speech, you suppress us, you put us in jail, you punish us for that. So what kind of freedom is this? And if there is no freedom, naturally, there is no democracy. There is no democracy. It is just a tyranny. It is just an autocracy. True? Is that true? Yes? Yes? Exactly. Right? So this is what the article is saying, that do not silence the academia, do not silence the intelligentsia, do not silence the intellectual class of India, because these are the people who are actually upholding the democratic features of India, that are actually upholding the democratic spirit of India. Clear? Yeah. So that's what we want here. That's what we want for India, and we need to have that. Right? Why? Because there are, the researchers who are going against government, or not just government, or any entity or any system, or they're coming up with new ideas, are generally assaulted. You see, many assault cases have been filed. If they are assaulted like that, and if they're not allowed to flourish with their own new ideas, there will be no democracy, right? There will be No democracy. Is that clear? Yeah? Exactly. So that was our news. That was our news. And an article basically on democracy and silencing the academia. Is that clear? Yes? Shall we move forward? Shall we move forward? Okay. So the next news that we have is building bridges. What bridges are we trying to build? Let's understand that. Okay. India has developed large scale quantity of renewable energy. Okay. So India had set the target that we will be producing renewable energy. Our dependence on the conventional energy sources has to be reduced. So to reduce that, what did we do? We went towards renewable energy. Now India set a target under, you remember the INDCs? Yes? Do you remember the INDCs? Intentional Nationally Determined Contributions. Yes? Under those INDCs, we also had 17 SDG goals, and in those SDG goals also, we had come up with an idea that, okay, we will be developing large-scale renewable energy for India. Now, based on that, we have achieved the target already. We had to do it by 2030, but we have achieved the target in 2025 itself, right? What was the target? 500 gigawatt of energy. This has been achieved in 2025 itself, which we were supposed to achieve in 2030. 2030 was our target. So naturally, we've been doing very well in the arena, right? If we are doing well, naturally, we have produced more energy. Is this a good thing? Of course, it's a good thing, right? We have more renewable energy, right? Yeah. So naturally, this is a good thing. But the problem arises that while we were not prepared for such large-scale production, we were not even prepared for large-scale storage. Try to understand this. What is happening? Under this, we created large-scale energy. Right? Now, energy keeps flowing. Either you find a place to utilize that energy, or you find a place to store that energy. These are only the two ways that you can go, right? So now to utilize the energy, you have to create such an infrastructure that would allow us to transport renewable energy to the electric units. Will that take time? Definitely it will take time. You cannot make infrastructure overnight now, can you? Right? Because when we say we have surplus renewable energy, actually, India has surplus renewable energy. Can you believe that? India has surplus renewable energy. But still, do you think all the appliances around you, look around you, wherever you are, if you're at home, if you're in a library, just look around you, do you think all of them are being run by renewable energy? No. So how do we have surplus? We talk about surplus because as much as we can use, we have more than that. Why can't we use all of it? Because we don't have the required infrastructure yet. Now that needs time. We were hoping that we would achieve this target by 2030 and up till then we will also build our infrastructure. Now it so happened that we achieved the target in 25. But the problem is we've not still made infrastructure. So we don't have infrastructure. Now what to do? So they thought, okay, let's store the energy. If we cannot utilize the energy, if we cannot process the energy, let's store the energy for now. And once we are ready with the infrastructure, we will release that energy. Sounds good, right? Sounds good? Okay. Another problem arises. When you are storing energy, you need large-scale storage units. For storage, you need storage units. The problem is we don't even have that. We don't have large-scale storage units. So where do we go? For this, recently, India came up with BESS, Battery Energy Storage System, that was launched in Delhi. This is South Asia's largest energy storage unit, and the technology has also been patented by us. Okay, this has been patented by us, patented by India. That means according to the IPR rights, we will be trading off this technology without allowing anyone else in South Asia to actually create this. So India will benefit from that. We have created largest storage unit, BESS, to actually cater to that. But the thing is, we still need more. We still need more because all the energy, if it gets stored, then there is no use of creating that energy. Why? Because we wanted renewable energy so that we can lower down the conventional sources of energy. If we keep storing it, if we spend all our money, all our funds on creating storage units, we won't have enough to spend on infrastructure, would we? Then how will we come up with infrastructure? And if we don't come up with infrastructure, this energy will always be stored and will never be used. That doesn't sound any good. That is equivalent to not creating any energy at all, right? So this early achievement has again come up as a challenge for us. We're trying to deal with that. That's why we're building the bridges, that we have some gaps. The gaps of infrastructure, the gaps of storage, and we are trying to curb those gaps, and we're trying to build a bridge so that we are able to produce more energy while at the same time utilizing that energy and storing the surplus, right? Both of the options are not really feasible for India right now, not very on a large scale. So we want to focus on that. We want to build those bridges and we want to connect the dots so that we have better options. Is that clear? Yes? Yes? Good morning, everyone. Is that clear? That's what the article is talking about, India's renewable energy potentials and our methods to actually utilize that capacity. Yes? All right. So this was our news. Solar performances, we've already had large scale productions. Like our solar performance is far exceptional, far exceptional. We've hit a record, we've hit a peak demand. And you see, it is not just the production, demand is also rising. Everybody today is trying to access what? We want solar energy. At homes, at industries, at factories, at workplaces, everybody is trying to move towards renewable energy, right? And in the renewable energy, the most feasible one that people are finding is solar energy. So they're moving more towards solar energy. Yes, you'll see solar panels everywhere these days, right? Why is that? Because it has become so common that government has pushed it so much that people are actually using it. People are actually depending on it. And this hit a peak demand. This hit a peak demand that we had 256.1 gigawatt solar power demand, right? Which is obviously taking off the load of conventional sources of energy. Is that clear? Is that clear? Yes? All right. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So let's move forward. Let's move forward to our next news. That is, you see, energy crisis has been in news for a very long time now because of the whole Middle East issues, right? Because of the whole Persian Gulf issue, because of Iran and US's issue, all these things that have come forward has created large scale energy security problems for the world. This is nothing new, right? We've discussed this many times that energy security is being questioned now. And the thing is, what is new is this article puts forward an idea that while India is reeling with it, how come there are other countries, like we have China, we have Korea, all these countries are able to sustain themselves even during this crisis. How are they doing that? We should understand and we should try to adopt that methodology. Yeah. So the article came up with the fact that International Energy Agency, when International Energy Agency talks about energy stability around the world, they say that China and Korea already have surplus. Now, how do you store surplus? Because if we see, there are multiple organizations like OPEC, etc., that make sure you don't store a lot of energy. You don't store a lot of energy sources. Now, if you're not allowed to do that, how are we to actually cater? How are we to actually do this? So, to sustain with this surplus, what they've done is these countries have generally come up with an idea that what we will be doing, we will be trying to accumulate more and more supplies, right? However, chain disruptions are happening. India is facing a disruption. Almost every country is facing a disruption, right? Because of the Strait of Hormuz and everything. A lot of energy resources are also being destroyed in this war. They're not questioning that. There is a shift in this security, right? Yeah. So what the article says is, today, in today's world, energy security has changed its definition. How so? Today, energy security is not what you used to think of it. Today, energy security has a different definition. What kind of definition do we see? What kind of definition do we see? We say that if you want energy security, you don't need to secure a lot of energy. All you need to do is maintain a supply. How? Just try to understand this. What are we trying to do? We're saying that energy security is not about purchasing fuel. Okay? It is not about purchasing fuel on the lowest prices. Earlier it was that you purchase fuel on lower prices, you store them, and that is your energy security. You have energy security. Today's energy security is not about that. Then what is it about? The question is, what is it about? If it is not about purchasing fuel at lower price, then how do we ensure energy security in today's world? They're saying that in today's world, you emphasize on resilience, diversification, and macroeconomic stability. Why? Because it is not about buying, it is about sustaining yourself. You sustain yourself, right? And with that sustenance, you also have macroeconomic stability, that the moment prices fluctuate, you've become so habitual of the fact that you are buying oil at lower prices that your economy has also become habitual of it. Now, if in your economy, the oil prices rise, the entire economy starts shaking. So that means you are totally bound by that prices, right? So you should make such that your sustainability is so strong that the price hike doesn't break your entire economic chain. Your macroeconomic stability should be such that the price, like if it is extreme, that is fine, it will impact your economy, but it should not destroy your economy. That is your macroeconomic stability that is required to maintain today's energy security. It is not about just having oil, it is about not letting oil prices, oil availability affect your nation so deeply that your entire economy, your entire polity is disturbed. That is energy security for today. Do you understand that? Do you understand the difference? Yes? Do you understand what new concept of energy security is? Yes? Is it clear? Yeah. So the charts here, they say that energy requirements, like for India and China, if we compare, just look at the chart. Okay. They're saying that India and China's oil demand in the year 2025 to 26. Okay. It keeps rising, it keeps falling, and it is like not very stagnant, right? However, the production and consumption of petroleum products, production and consumption of petroleum products has been very constant. If the demands are not constant, we're saying that oil reports, according to the oil reports, that the demands are not constant. If demand is not constant, how can we say that consumption will be constant? And if consumption is not constant, how do you decide actually how much import do you want to rely on? And if you are not able to decide that, how will you come up with the strategy? How will you come up with the strategy? And now in today's time, we can say India has clearly become world's third largest consumer. We have become world's third largest consumer. Now, do you think based on our economic development, China being a developed nation has equivalent demands? You see, the fall and rise is happening, but still we are on the same tangent. If a developed country like China has same demand as us, do you really think we are utilizing our oil resources best? Because a developing nation like India should not have that requirement. And if we have that requirement, that should be shown in our development. But in our development, that is not visible. If we are using all this and such is shaping our industry and economy, where is that development? Where is that industrialization? Where is that establishment where this demand is justified? Do you understand that? So they're saying we are actually utilizing more than we need. we are actually wasting the products that we are importing at such high prices. And because of that, because of not so sustainable use, we are suffering with this crisis. Otherwise, India would not have been affected by this crisis had we maintained our resources better. But we didn't do that. Why? Because we are just moving on to the trends of developed nations while we are still a developing nation, and we need to change that trend. Do you agree? We need to change? Yes? Do you agree that we need to change that? Cheap crude imports may help short-term inflation management, but over-dependence creates long-term geopolitical risk. Exactly. But India is over-dependent. You can see that, right? India is over-dependent because we are not sustainably using our resources. It is not that we don't have resources. It is that we are not sustainably using them. That has become a problem. So the article is clearly stating that if you look at the demands of India and China, if they are running in a parallel tangent, that means we are definitely doing something wrong. Because how can we have similar demands with a developed nation? Obviously, we cannot. And we should not, right? Because we should have more sustainable structures. And if we don't have that, naturally, our development is not going in the right direction. And fortunately, we have been able to address that, where is that development? We are able to question that, where is that development? That has used all this oil, where is that development? We don't see that, right? Yeah, so that is what the article is about. Is that clear? Yes? All right. Moving on to our next news, last news, then we'll solve a few questions, okay? The next news that we have is a very small thing, okay? Just one or two things that you have to understand from this, okay? Just pay attention. What is happening is, SEBI is saying that there are fraudulent investment ads, fraudulent investment or financial ads that are running across internet which are not approved by SEBI. Okay. Now in India, according to the SEBI guidelines, any financial investment, like you see, we have those ads of mutual funds, but they always say that they contain risk and you should invest at your own cost, right? They always come with a disclaimer, they always come with a warning that this can be addictive, this can get you losses, this is not 100% safe. You should remember that. You should invest, but you should remember that also, right? That is how the ads are put forward. So these official ads are SEBI approved. Okay, that's why they come up with disclaimers, that's why they come up with warnings, right? But there are millions of financial ads running. You must see that on every app that you open, every other game that you open, every other new app that you open. In the ad section, you will be able to see some sort of financial ad, some sort of funding, some sort of game, some sort of investment idea, and they're just running without any warning. And there are other SEBI guidelines that they are not following. Okay, so now this meta ad through which all these ads are run, the meta ads through which all these ads are run is being questioned by SEBI that why don't you have a better filter? Okay, meta ads is saying that we have a checkbox. Okay, meta ads has a checkbox saying whether you have been following or whether you are accustomed with SEBI guideline. If you tick this, that means you are accustomed with that. If you don't, that means you are not, which is good. Quite a good solution that you have a checkbox. If you are not accustomed with SEBI guideline, we can stop them. As simple as that. Like we get a checkbox, I'm not a robot, right? You get that? I'm not a robot. Are you able to proceed without clicking that box? On any website, when you get that pop-up that I'm not a robot, right? Unless you click that, you're not able to go to the next page. You're not transferred to the next page, right? So that's what meta ad is saying, that we have a checkbox. But the problem is in meta ads, even if you don't click the checkbox, you are able to go to the next page as non-register of SEBI, as non-register of SEBI. Why are you allowing them to go to the next stage? If they're not registered, they're not clicking this, that means they're not registered. You stop them here. Now meta ads is saying that we need to give them the chance to come forward. We are asking them to self-declare. Now this self-declaration is out of question because how will you prove that? because of this, a lot of people are becoming accustomed to scams. They're facing scam issues because a lot of scams are running around, and this is the reason that they're able to access your online resources. The moment you click, you run to a page, they're able to access your bank accounts, they're able to access your details. If they are registered with SEBI, you can question them. They have accountability, they have transparency, they have answerability. But if they're not registered with SEBI, nothing. They're just a private entity that took your money and you won't be able to do anything. So these scams are increasing by the day, right? And people are becoming more and more vulnerable to these. And such financial education and such technical education is not possible to be given to every Indian, right? To every citizen, we cannot do that. So we really need a strong method to filter these ads so that they're not able to pop up on the screen of the users, right? So that's why new guidelines have been issued by SEBI that you check this and come up with the better solution, right? So Meta has been questioned and told that you have to make sure this doesn't happen. You have to come up with a better filter, right? Which is a very huge necessity. Every other day people are losing money to scams, right? You see, every other day there's a new case where scammers have come up with a new method to take away your money, right? Yeah. So this is what the news is about. SEBI coming with guidelines saying that you need to have better filters. Is that clear? Yes? All right. That was our news for the day. Now, as promised yesterday, that the paper that we discussed yesterday, questions from them will be solving today. Okay, we'll be solving questions from yesterday's paper. We have a few questions. Try to solve them and then we'll finish up our class. Okay. Yeah. Read the question, comment your answer. Let us know what you think the answer is. These are the topics that we discussed in yesterday's paper and we're solving their questions today. Okay. Read the question. The question is regarding OPEC that has been in news consistently because of the oil crisis, because of UAE leaving OPEC and OPEC plus, right? Yeah. Answer quickly. Done. Okay, we have our first answer, that is A. Other people also quickly give your answers. Yeah. All right. The answer we have is A, 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Membership is strictly limited to nations located in Middle East? No. Right? We saw there were other members, right? Middle East was maybe the founding identity, but not the extended identity. Why? Because we have Venezuela, we have African nations also like Nigeria, Congo, right? So naturally, statement 4 is wrong. Next question you have. Next question. Try to solve that. Yeah. Read the question and try to give your answer. Very nice, very nice. All D. Okay. All right. Let's see the answer. We have D. Just yesterday we discussed all these points, that how recent changes have been done, right? Next question, based on model code of conduct that we discussed yesterday regarding PM speech, and that could have hampered model code of conduct, that is yet to be decided by Election Commission. Yeah, try to answer. Done? Option B. Okay. Okay, we have a few answers. Option B, 2 and 3, very nice. Option B, 2 and 3, very nice. The fourth one is incorrect because, Abhiram Singh case, 7-judge bench, right? 4-3 majority, that was there. Statement 1 was also incorrect because it is not a statutory document. Clear? Yeah, that was our news for the day. I hope you understood. Yes, based on today's news, we'll solve questions tomorrow. Revise that, read the paper carefully. Okay, we'll meet again tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Yes, any doubts, any queries? All right then, that was it for the day. Thank you so much for